Hey, I'm Matthias Myldernet from Remedy. We've put together the Alan Wake bonus disc for you with loads of interesting material. We hope you enjoy it. We have the Avatar items, the making of documentary, as well as some other goodies. Enjoy.
Remedy came about from a handful of very kind of talented, ambitious young guys, most of whom had backgrounds in the demo scene and were very interested in computer graphics and audio and games in general and wanted to make games professionally.
And that kind of background, being able to milk the early computers for performance and beautiful graphics, has clearly helped, and that was the foundation of the company.
In the beginning, Remedy was very much a garage band and was actually operating from the basement of the parents of one of the founding members.
It's one of those classical stories of a small team following their passion and their vision and being able to create something unique and cool.
This was the mid-90s, and it was still at that time possible for a handful of individuals to actually make a video game or a computer game by themselves, and a kind of a top-notch game at that. So it was an ambitious dream even then, but something that was within the reach. At the time, Death Rally was already running along, and I was studying the English language and literature at the university, and one of the guys at Remedy contacted me and asked me to write the texts for the game. Back then it was kind of a limited tool set. It was this and this many letters on 3 lines, and you need to do things within that scope. I knew I wanted to write professionally, but suddenly being able to kind of do a project like this, it was a very, very fun thing.
The guys were really following their heart and their passion. They wanted to create games and they wanted to get into the industry. So actually, I knew some of the people around the company, and when I first heard that there's actually a living to be made in games, I was really surprised myself. And this is back in '95 or so. I started hearing the stories of the guys going to trade shows, and actually they're being picked up by drivers in limousines, and that was a surprising. What is this stuff? And I never could have fathomed that you could actually make a living in computer games, and much less be successful.
More than kind of a bunch of colleagues, it was more like a group of friends doing what they love. Back then we were all very young and kind of working at odd hours because it was possible, and there were things like mattresses under the desks for someone after they had worked as long as they could go. They could sleep a couple of hours and crawl out from under the table again and keep on working.
Death Rally was a 1996 game, so this is a top-down racer, addictive, fun, good gameplay. At that point in time, it was a fairly large game, but essentially around 12 people in the basement, all hot and kind of crammed together, and kind of bringing their own computers to work.
Death Rally back then was a hit, and we were definitely going to do other games. We knew that. There were a lot of different ideas and concepts for kind of different games floating around, and one of those was a very early draft of what then became Max Payne. I think that the early concept was called Dark Justice. When we started working on Max Payne, it was bit over 10 guys in the very beginning, and we did have a budget, but it was very, very limited, so we had to kind of get creative to achieve what we were aiming for. So this was still kind of a garage band dreaming up stuff. One of the good examples for how we needed to get creative was that for cinematics we didn't have the resources, and so we decided to use graphic novels to tell the story and ended up using photos for the basis of those shots. And then we suddenly were in a situation that we need to cast all the characters in the game, and somehow it ended up being so that I was going to be Max Payne. Fast forward a couple of years later, and I'm seeing my face everywhere, kind of what was to be known as the constipated Crimis on the cover of the magazines, and the rest is history. With the rest of the cast, I just kind of went around friends and relatives and got them to play the parts. My mother ended up as the main villain, Nicole Horn, and my dad was the shady government official, and my brother was a gangster, and I even got the janitor of the apartment building I was staying at the time to play the Godfather. So it was good fun, really, really fun.
In 2001, Saku Lehtinen, our art director, and myself went down to London to do a demonstration of the game. Unfortunately, at that point in time, we couldn't really fly with proper airlines, so we had to fly with a budget airline, and we were hauling this big PC because no laptop would run the game at that point in time. And the computer got bashed off, and the graphics card fell off, and so forth. Unfortunately, we only realized this as we go into the big meeting in this executive area in downtown London. And I'm doing an impersonation to keep these people interested because we only have a limited time window there. So I'm virtually doing like sock puppets of what Max Payne is about and bullet time and so forth, and talking the spiel as Saku goes to work on the computer with his Leatherman. So he does a regular MacGyver on it and pulls it apart and reinstalls the graphics card. But you learn to appreciate the comforts that you have now, that you can actually live in a proper hotel, you can take proper flights as opposed to traveling on the tightest possible budget, carrying your own stuff through, downtown London with a monitor on your back and so forth. The success of Max Payne, I think it took everybody by surprise. We knew that we had something good and something unique, but we had no idea how large Max Payne was going to be.
The huge success of what Max Payne became, it was really surreal. I have to say that to this day, it's a hard thing to understand that it really was such a big hit. And then after the first game, we were definitely kind of a real company at that time and knew that we had a secure future. And it was an obvious thing to work on the sequel. And for that, the schedule was much tighter. But the company was growing and we had more and more guys, over 20 at this point. And for Max Payne 2, the budget was already considerably higher. So with these kind of creative choices that we were forced to do with Max Payne 1, now we had an option to do them with actual professionals. So one area, for example, was the whole cast. We were able to get professional actors for all the roles. I guess that from Max Payne, we took three things that were what Remedy does well. And one of them is technology. And we have had our own tech in all of our games. So it was a clear thing that we would be doing a new game engine and all the tools that we would be building the game on. And it's a very important part of what Remedy is. The two other things are that we want to tell stories. We knew that whatever we would be doing next, we would want to have a strong main character and a deep story that would be driving the game. And the third thing, I guess, is cinematic action. We want to use kind of stylized way of showing action in a movie-like way.
We want to make sure that Alan Wake can live up to its full potential. When we initiated the project, we saw that it could be something unique, awesome, creative, and innovative, and actually pushes the envelope in games in general a bit. After all, the Remedy brand must stand for something. It stands for movie-like action, strong storytelling, beautiful characters, and it has a certain tone that you've come to expect, such as you would expect certain movie makers to make certain kinds of films and to reach to a certain quality. I think Remedy as a creative force must stand for something.
Well, Finland is the center of the universe, after all. But seriously, Remedy has its roots in the demo scene in the 80s and 90s. And Finland has really been a center for the demo scene. So it's kind of a logical combination. Even today, if you know an event called the Assembly, it's still the annual biggest demo scene event in the world. It still takes place in Helsinki every year. I think that has given us a good basis, because we can easily find people who have sort of trained in demo scene. They have written fast graphics code and they have created really great art and music and whatever. All basic skills for game development, really.
I think we're very lucky in Espoo in Finland in terms of the circumstances that allow us to develop games. We have a very small nation, and we've always needed to look abroad when we're starting something. It's simply not feasible to create a game for the Finnish market. So instantly, you're born global as a company. I think we have a very good ecosystem in terms of a society. We have great education, great universities, awesome art schools. Even the basic stuff, such as a functioning legal system, a good social security network, all of these things help us to be entrepreneurial and to take those leaps. So there is a safety net if you do fail.
Finland is a relatively small country, about 5 million people, and that much people you sort of almost know everybody or know somebody who can deliver exactly what you want. And in here we've tried to sort of gather the cherries from the pile, like pick them all around, the best talent we've found.
In addition to being able to pull the cream of the Finnish talent from the games industry, we've also had the benefit of being able to tap into international talent. All the time that I've worked here, we've always had folks from abroad, and today we're 10 different nationalities on the team.
We're doing a game for everybody around the world. I mean, it's an international product, and we want that to be reflected on the people who are working on it as well. So on purpose, we've hired a lot of different nationalities, but we also work with people all around the world.
I like it here a lot. It's cold right now, but the summer's beautiful. I'm not in a hurry to go back. I don't have any immediate plans. If I don't go back, then I'm fine with that.
Finland is very nice place because almost everybody is speaking English very good. So the language is not the problem. The one thing that might be a little weird in Finland are the ridiculous prices for alcohol. So if you're going for a beer, it costs a fortune compared to Germany.
One of the great things about working at Remedy is this very mature, seasoned team. That means that everyone's got a good work-life balance and they know how to maintain so that we don't go too crazy with late nights or anything like that. It's very, very balanced here.
We still have this small family vibe, and that's good for many reasons. Obviously, it's better for the communication, people know each other, and it's a nice place to work. Because you don't run into strange faces on the halls. But it's also good for innovation because the group is more tightly knit and working better together, and there's less of that trying to get the whole team moving. When you're smaller, you can be more agile and react to situations more, which is good for the game overall because then you can innovate more.
At Remedy we have a really tight team. It was like 25 people or something when I came here. Now it's 45. It's still very small in like international standards, but to me it's of course big because it's like doubled in size. But fortunately it's still intimate, and it's not like a factory, but it's like a good family of people.
Remedy is sort of you could say, crossroads where experts in technology, storytelling and art meet.
Sort of the heritage from the demo scene is the fact that code, art, music, everybody talks to each other all the time.
Everybody knows each other. It feels more like a family than a company sometimes.
I think one of the advantages that we have with the small team is that ideas flow a lot around the company, and many people can have different ideas, and everybody is involved at some level on the design side, and there's lots of talking going around, and I like the fact that people easily talk about design and what we should do and what's the direction that we should take.
This is a collaborative effort, and being a small team, it really allows us to communicate with one another. So Sam can go over to Mixer and have a chat about a gameplay element that really works with the story, and on the flip side, Sako can talk to Sam about some visual thing that he's kind of foreseeing in the story. It works really well. Being in a small office in a small team, we really get that communication flow working really well.
The older guys here, they teach you very soon that the Remedy logo on top of the package is like a seal of quality, and you have to meet that in everything that you do.
The best thing about working for Remedy is that you know that they're not going to put out a game until it's great. And you will be proud of what you work on, and it's not going to get out the door before it hits that point.
There's a clear and distinctive Remedy culture, and we want to create something that's larger than a single game, something that becomes almost a part of popular culture in general, and it can cross from one game to the next or different media, whether it's TV or film or books and so forth, and that's what we want to establish. We want to tell stories. I think fundamentally we're storytellers. A few thousand years ago you could have some people sitting around a fire and they'd all come to listen to a good storyteller, and this person would relate the emotion and the suspense to these people, and they'd be intrigued by it. I think that's what we're really doing. We're just doing it in people's living rooms with modern technology. That's essentially what we are.
Every Friday we have a Friday social, we have a get together, we'll check out the latest builds with a team, drink a few beers, and then every 6 weeks we also have a milestone review where we drink a few beers, have some nice food, and get together and see who falls on their face first.
We moved to this building in late 2004. We really wanted our own back cave, our own defined space, which we owned and controlled, or well, actually we rented, but we control this area, and we wanted to build it into our next gen office, if you will. This space we really wanted functional and comfortable. It's not about flash or things like that, but we want to have an office that serves the team well and is a creative space that allows us to work efficiently. We do have some comforts. For example, being in Finland, we do have the saunas and so forth, and those are terribly handy for, you know, team get-togethers, or also if you're mountain biking to work or running during the lunch hour or coming to work. We also have our dedicated motion capture area for quick iterations, a kitchen, and the requirement of 2 dishwashers so that we'd always have fresh cups of coffee. Coffee keeps the development flowing.
A lot of the people have been here for many years and worked together for many years, so it's very important part of what Remedy games are, who we are as people and how we work together, because making video games, more than anything, it's a team effort.
Really, it's about your work and being able to do something that's cool, that you enjoy and the audience enjoys. And for us, that's always been the factor in our culture and what drives us. I mean, we want to entertain the most amount of people in the best possible way.
We were quiet for a very long time. I mean, we really didn't show very much of Alan Wake, and it was amazing to see so many people following Alan Wake, and from our heritage from Max Payne, we had a lot of fans that were consistently checking out what's new on alanwake.com, writing on the boards, and there's a lot of anticipation and expectations out there.
I totally understand the perception that it has taken a long time, but we really wanted this game to fulfill its potential and really meet the expectations of all the fans out there.
We've done an endless amount of research on this title. So the background research has been meticulous. We've looked at things such as ghost towns in the Pacific Northwest, tornado behavior, even the architectural integrity of these buildings. We even have a landscape architect who's worked to make accurate landscapes.
And we did several trips to Pacific Northwest with the art team, and myself and lead game designer Mikael, we drove about 2,000 miles around it for a period of almost 2 weeks.
We came back with over 40,000 photographs that we are basing the environments and models on.
We went to see places like Astoria, where the movie Ring was made, and that's a very typical Pacific Northwest coastal town. Twin Peaks was shot at North Bend, which is not that far from Seattle. We took a lot of reference material from there to get that small town feel and what it really means. The story has fantastic elements, but it has to have its roots deep in reality. What does a light switch in small town in this part of the world look like? And when you have photographs, you have something where you can make art very much more quickly, and it becomes so much more somehow tangible.
We've looked at star maps to make sure that the stellar constellations are correct in the night sky. So there's a lot of intricate detail. Not everybody will realize these individual details, but I think they come together to form a whole package that's just a living, breathing, credible world.
One of the most impressive places we went to in Oregon was Crater Lake. I remember the moment when I walked on the edge of the cliff. I wasn't expecting much. I have to say my jaw dropped because the water was so blue, huge, absolutely blue screen blue. This location was the inspiration for Cauldron Lake, which is very pivotal to the story. There even is a lodge on the edge of the Crater Lake, and we have our own version of the Cauldron Lake Lodge.
The technical requirements of such a big game mean that there's very few off-the-shelf solutions that you can purchase to achieve the vision of the creative guys. As such, we've needed to build our own tech from the ground up. there are some great solutions out there like Unreal Engine and Havoc, but none of these would have provided what we needed. A great example is with the Havoc physics engine. We've taken that, it's a really great piece of software, but it doesn't go as far as we need it to go. For example, Havoc includes an off-the-shelf vehicle solution, but we needed to take that and rework it from the ground up to provide the feeling that we were looking for.
When I got to see some of the materials Saku showed me of Alan Wake, that actually hit me that we can do pretty much anything with this game. Sort of like we can light it as we like, we can use the cameras we ever want, we can pretty much do everything with the Remedy game engine because it's so incredible.
In this game we are working with huge landscapes and environments and really trying to catch the right mood and atmosphere. So we have a really huge game world and we need really good tools to create a nice atmosphere for the scenes and for the game. And we have really good simulation parameters to control daytime, time of the night and moonlight to create a good mood. The tool is really powerful and gives us lots of opportunities to polish the levels really high quality. So it's really easy to use and I can do really effective things with our tool. So for example, I want to create a road to the gold mine here. I just select the police. Let's choose the gravel road. Now there's a road that leads to the gold mine. And also that contains all the foliage, more shrubs and haze and everything. Blends them together really nicely. You don't have to do that much hand work to create a really nice looking road through the forest. Also, it's really easy to create fields or cut down the trees or plant trees. So, for example, we have here a huge forest valley. I want to have a field here, so I just select the area where I want to create that, and just let's have a corn field and maize even there. So now there's some UFO circles and cornfield there. Also, you can add assets into the level really easily. And there we have a red pickup truck. And you can place also other prop items really easily. And now we should have a grain silo. The ambience presets allows us to control different kind of weather effects for the scenes. So we can control the fogginess of the levels, how far you can see, also different kind of other weather effects like the cloudiness, making the scenes look really nice. And also we have a lot of control over the different kind of post-process effects to make scenes look even better. Oh, it's really dark and creepy night now.
With the first games that I worked on, Max Payne 1 and Max Payne 2, we were really limited by a lot of the tool set and the ways of delivering the story and the environments. With the Xbox 360, we're able to harness a lot more power, and we have a uniform platform, so we don't need to worry about a lot of the compatibility issues that we did with the first Max Paynes. What we do have, for example, is this large 100-kilometer space that we can stream, and a lot of the fidelity of the graphics and the audio bring the world to life. So we're getting closer and closer into areas where graphics are no longer such an issue, or lighting is no longer such an issue. It becomes more about artificial intelligence. It becomes about the delivery and the acting of these virtual actors, and more about being able to cross that uncanny valley of you have somebody who looks awesome or looks very realistic, but are their reactions always going to be as realistic as you want them to, and so forth. So I think the challenges are changing as we go forward.
Artificial intelligence is a very broad term used to describe a whole variety of different issues. For example, if you think about what a monster needs to do in the game, it needs to perceive the world, it needs to figure out where the player is, figure out tactics of how to approach the player and how to attack him or flee from him or dodge behind cover or do all the other various things that make it feel like there's some intelligence in the bad guy's head, which is a very big task. Take, for example, a typical enemy in the game, a Taken. It will probably start out with a concept, one of the concept artists, and it will go through to a modeler who will build the mesh for it, which will then be mapped to a set of bones, which is like its skeleton that it uses for animation. That'll go further to an animation team, which will build up a set of animations for it. The animation program will help implement those animations. And finally, when this mesh and the animation set is ready to go, its behavior is set up by another programmer, an artificial intelligence programmer. And finally, it can be placed by the level designers in the game. the level will then get converted to what we see on the disc, and then more programmers further translate what's on the disc to what you see on the screen.
So my job is basically to take all the animations that the animators give me and put it all together. So I'm sort of a spindle in the middle of the net, making it all work. I first get a rough version from the animators. I use that to plug it into the game, make everything work. I send it back to the animators, make them a build, and they can continue iterating with that to make it look good.
So most of the animation is based off of motion capture, at least for the human, normal characters in the game. We're really trying to capture the fact that they are normal people. For the Taken, there tends to be more of an emphasis on keyframing. It's done off of video reference that we shoot and keyframe based off of that. So it gives a little more of a fantastic sense with the animation, but it's still grounded in reality. A big part of animation is not just creating the animation itself, but seeing how it interacts with the other animations in the game. And the only real way to tell that is by playing the game over and over. But in this kind of arena, we can just jump right in and test the animations right away. We don't have to go forward to the part of the game where this character appears or anything like that. We can just jump right in and look at a character without anything else in the way. As you can see, this is not our in-game lighting. This is just something that makes it easy to see what the characters look like and just focus entirely on the performance. So this is kind of our little animation playground. We can drive our car around or jump on top of things, run upstairs, go to the convenience store. One of the keys to doing good motion captures is a lot of planning, knowing exactly what you're going to do. And you don't really go in and mocap just one or two animations. You try and get a big chunk of them together, know exactly what you're going to go for, and then go in and shoot it. You have somebody directing, somebody operating the mocap, and an actor in the suit giving the actual performance.
He's probably kidding, Birch. He's got a great sense of humor. Just ask Sinclair.
Overall, we have a couple of dozen of rather central characters. This is part of the Lost America, like you have this 50s style diner where you have the outfit of a waitress, you have these logger types, you have this park ranger, quite soft man actually, very keen on coffee, keeps talking about coffee.
Try the coffee. Just don't blame me when you fall in love, because it'll break your heart when you have to leave.
We have Barry, who's the agent. Everybody loves Barry. So we sort of wanted to find a character who could be the sort of comical sidekick of Alan Wake. Obviously, when you have so much voice acting, that's one of the key storytelling methods. You really want to focus on casting. I think the hardest cast we had was Wake's wife, Alice. We had about 200 ladies to read for the role. We knew that Alice is a very important character. That's the main motivational reason for the player, just as Alan Wake, to work in his world and try to get his wife back. So the character needs to be in a very short moment of time, and in the flashbacks which Wake has, all those moments have to be really deliver in order to make people emotionally caring about Alice's well-being.
We want to make kind of characters that are more than that just kind of cardboard cutouts or caricatures. We wanted to give them depth, and since Alice doesn't have that much screen time, it's a difficult thing. We wanted to make a strong female lead, and in some ways we saw that out of the couple, she is the stronger one. That's the reason why the New York flashbacks came into the game. We needed to show their relationship and show everyone that she is worth saving.
In order to have emotions in music, you really have to know the characters, you really have to feel them. Remedy has made a magnificent job at creating such characters because they have so many features and layers, and they are almost like a, how would I say, polyphonic instrument, because they have not only one color but multiple colors at once. And they are very believable, they are real. For instance, Mr. Wake's instrument could be considered as guilt in the beginning, which then evolves into determination, and then only in the later stages of the game it becomes action. And Alice, she bends, but she doesn't break. Without Alice's flexibility, they probably would have divorced or parted a long time ago. And then there's Barry, which is one of my favorites because I find a lot of myself in him. He's kind of hiding everything behind his jokes and his manly posture, and he obviously has some issues. So it's those very believable and human things that I like to put my fingers onto. I felt at some stage I even used scoring Alan Wake as a psychological relief to myself, letting out some demons. Oh. It was really touching to see orchestra playing some of my cues, even though I used string samples when I composed music. It's a totally different dynamic level when you see and hear dozens of people playing the same note and really concentrating on what they're doing. You could feel the combined emotion of all these people.
We're using around 1700 sound effects in the game. We have around 1 hour of cinematic for the in-game cutscenes, and I think we are using up to 1500 voiceovers. I have to figure out which kind of sound effects we need in the game. If we decide not to make them in-house, I have to make sure that I request them from our outsourcing companies. We're working together with SoundLab, which is the in-house sound department from our publisher, Microsoft Game Studios. And we're working together with Soundalux, which is quite a famous Hollywood studio. For example, they did the latest Star Trek or the latest James Bond. SoundLab did some outdoor recording sessions to provide us with proper source material we could use for sound design. So they sent one of their sound guys to spend a few days in the northwest of North America, in a tent actually, and he recorded some great forest, wind and river sounds, birds, owls, all that stuff that we're using later on to create the ambient tracks for Alan Wake. So the biggest creative challenge was to create a sound for the dark presence. And of course you don't have any idea how this is going to sound like. What came into my mind was to use some really harmless sounds that you never would recognize as being scary, process them and make them sound weird. So what I want to show you now is how I created the bat sound. Bats means bringing enemies to the system. So whenever you get chased by Taken or you get in danger, we fade out the ambient track and we fade in the bat sound. So what I did, I took a baby scream and processed it, and that's how it sounds. So another one I took is some baby kittens. And after processing them, they sound like this. So these sounds combined, and some other sounds as well, sound like this. And it sounds like this in-game.
Very beginning, when we were starting to think about the game and franchise as a general, we knew that we want to create something bigger than just one game.
The success of Alan Wake will really define where we go with this, and clearly we have a lot of story to tell and we have a lot of things to explore, and we always set out to build something much larger than a single game, but clearly it will be defined by the success of this game. So we're doing some downloadable content which will peel up the mystery and share more of the creative vision that we have for Alan and continue his journey.
But from the very start, when we started thinking about it, whether we should do it or not, we decided that we don't want to do it just for the sake of it. Not just because everybody else is doing downloadable content, but you know, it has to be something that people really enjoy. So it's going to be a great bridge between Alan Wake 1 and hopefully what will be Alan Wake 2. And I hope everybody out there will really enjoy it.
We like to kind of use pop culture and borrow from pop culture in our games, and the best possible thing, which has already happened with Max Payne, is to have these games become part of that pop culture that other people will find inspiration in and borrow from in their own works. Writing is something that you need to kind of focus on, find time without interruptions for several days, preferably several weeks when thinking about the story as a whole. So for Alan Wake, for example, I spent a few weeks of the project locked away in a cabin by a lake to get peace and quiet and write it, and also to get a feel of the proper stage of cabin fever that Alan Wake is going through. Writing a psychological thriller like Alan Wake has its own challenges. We knew that we wanted to make a thriller. It's a very important part of what Alan Wake is. We didn't want to go into horror or fantasy or science fiction in the sense of having these large monsters coming at you. We wanted to kind of leave that ambiguity in there, and with a psychological thriller there's always this question, what is real and what is not, and how much of this is the main character just imagining or hallucinating or dreaming up. You can't take shortcuts with the story, and you can't cheat. There has to be a good reason for why this is happening, and you need to keep feeding the audience bits and pieces that are really relevant. You can't answer too many questions, but you need to answer just enough so that it leaves things open all the time and keeps them wanting for more. Sources of inspiration have naturally been TV series. Twin Peaks is one obvious thing. Lost, we are big fans of the storytelling and the different kind of pop culture aspects of Lost. And naturally, for me personally, there are many books that I draw inspiration from. This is a very Stephen King kind of a story with the writer as a main character. We have strong supernatural elements in the game, but we have been trying to bring a more realistic real-world angle to the whole game. We have a married couple who have problems with their marriage, and we have a idyllic small town with quirky town folks. Things that you normally don't see in video games, and these are the elements that we wanted to bring into the mix.
That really is very much the Remedy formula, that we take something that's familiar to the audience from different forms of media, but really new in video games. And I think, you know, it is original, but there are certain things that you kind of recognize and they're familiar and comfortable, but really new in video games.
For instance, in Max Payne, slow motion is a theme which is in Hong Kong movies a recurring theme. How can that be a gameplay element? Whereas light or lack of it, darkness, these atavistic fears that you might get is another theme that everybody can sort of relate to, and how can you make that kind of elements a part of your game?
We didn't want to have an action hero as the main character, because that's basically what every action title out there is doing. We wanted an everyman who grows into this role, and that's where kind of the idea of using a writer as the main character came from. I think that every writer puts himself into the story as a whole, but this is fiction and this is pretty far out there, so can't really say that there would be that much real connections. I mean, there are small bits. Naturally, you kind of use your own past experience and history. Things like we have a old battered light switch that used to be Alan Wake's childhood toy that now has mystical properties, and by chance as a kid I used to have an old battered light switch, the clicker, as a toy.
He's a normal person thrust into an extraordinary situation. He's more of a classic hero than maybe a video game hero. So there's the challenges there of making him feel like a normal person.
He's a person that you can believe that is real and could exist in other media outside of games as well.
He's a bit like you and I. He's not a superhero. He's not, he doesn't have any special powers. He's just a guy that uses his wits and smart thinking to get through the challenges that face him.
As an actor, it's a great character. It's like every actor wants a dark, a troubled, kind of a searching character to play. And this is one of those characters. It's as good as any movie script I've read, and I'm talking about movies that I've not been in. I'm talking about, like, it's really A-list writing. I think the writing is really, really sharp, and the story is sharp.
All games need opposition, and opposition for Alan Wake was one of the toughest things to nail in this game. We went through quite a bit of versions of the Takens. One of the problems there was that the style-wise, we want to be in that thriller movie area where you can't use fantastic elements so much. You want to keep it personal, inside your head kind of thing. Did I just see something on that guy? Was he moving? His head is maybe spinning. Am I imagining things? That kind of realm. When we started from thinking this almost supernatural kind of classical enemy in these types of films, I know what you did last summer, kind of a type who doesn't talk much, you never see their faces, you don't understand why they are after you, but the plain truth is that they are, and in order to survive you have to do your best.
The Taken are supposed to be a very creepy kind of enemy. You don't really know what they are. They sort of represent the unknown in a way, and they should be similar to reality, but not quite there.
We didn't want to have too much science fiction, too much supernatural, but on the other hand, we felt it had to be real world, but slightly off. So it took a lot of iteration, a lot of work to make sure that we nailed it in terms of them being human taken over by this dark presence, yet something malignant and dangerous.
So we just grabbed some axes, went out on the backyard and tried to be scary and tried to go crazy, and took a lot of reference videos with our cameras. And went from that, a lot of iterations. We found out that we need different types of Takens. We have this small, fast guy that comes and stab you with a knife in the back, and of course the big guy with a sledgehammer coming and smashing up everything.
We had long talks on how the enemy should look like, how they should work, and so on. And what we ended up with finally was that the darkness really isn't like an entity on the screen that actively does something against Wake, but it manipulates the surroundings. And it takes control of different entities and things that can be found in the darkness. This can be seen in our different enemy types, like the Taken. They are basically humans that have been taken over. The poltergeists that are like inanimate objects that are being possessed.
There were accidents along the way. Things like how our poltergeist objects and poltergeist doors came to be. It was really an accident. Having this certain type of physics box in the game at one point where an object would be violently throwing itself around. Seeing that, it just felt really, really unpredictable and scary. And those were kind of the first things that led to having poltergeist objects in the game.
Yeah, actually, because there were physics bugs and the player is a physical entity, because they were trembling so enormously fast, when you hit them,
they were deadly.
They were deadly, so actually you were pretty scared of them.
All the enemies that we have in the game needed to reflect the same thing that all of them reflect, the same visual effect. And behind all this was, of course, Barbara Chaker, who was controlling the dark presence.
The face of our antagonist, Barbara Jagger, has an echo of Slavic witch Baba Yaga in her, and the cabin where this all takes place is called the Birdleg Cabin, which is a reference to Baba Yaga as well. There are kind of references to mythology and folklore. Mainly I feel that they are very, very useful archetypes, that the characters and stories found from old folklore are very much present in today's fiction as well, and they have a lot of meaning packed into them.
The forest city boy, how does the forest appear? That's very inbuilt fear probably for all people who still carry this like ancient feel of dark forest and wish to go to the campfire. And did that move? What was that? Like everybody can imagine if fear takes the better of you when you're alone in woods, how you start thinking that all the environment seems to be alive, and sometimes in our game it really is alive, and how there's an axe murderer hiding probably behind each tree. With Alan Wake, the Pacific Northwest is basically the real deal, but it's subjective interpretation of Pacific Northwest. The trees, the machinery, big things are slightly bigger, certain things which are dark are slightly darker, and to bring out that feeling of pressure, the hostile environment. There's quite a lot of fog in Pacific Northwest, especially in the autumn time, which is the time when Wake and Alice are here at Bright Falls area. The fog draws out the silhouettes of the environment, the ferns, the spruce trees. So when you go close, you realize this is a spruce tree, but when you go further up, it's like a layered silhouettes of objects which emerge from the fog, and that also brings more sort of claustrophobic feel, how the forest is pressing on you.
We wanted to bring up the psychological side. In the darkness, all the nightmares and the horrors come true, and when you get back into the light, it all seems to vanish away, and it's once again calm. So this is like this emotional step when you get in the light. And then when you go away from the light again, all the horrors and the nightmares come back. To me, light is like safety, order, something that you can understand. Darkness is the unknown that you don't know about, and you're quite sure what's happening there. It's chaos. This can be seen in the Poltergeist, in the Bet's effect, in the Shadow Shields, in all of the main pieces that we have in the game.
We wanted to convey the intrigue, the suspense, and make the player emotionally involved and motivated to take Alan Wake to his destiny, to see what happens to him, and hopefully to help him to solve the mystery of his missing wife, solve the mystery of this town of Bright Falls. What does it all mean, and how can this all be?
Stephen King once wrote that nightmares exist outside of logic, and there's little fun to be had in explanations. They're antithetical to the poetry of fear. In a horror story, the victim keeps asking why, but there can be no explanation, and there shouldn't be one. The unanswered mystery is what stays with us the longest, and it's what we'll remember in the end. My name is Alan Wake. I'm a writer. I've always had a vivid imagination, but this dream unsettled me. It was wild and dark and weird, even by my standards. So yes, It began with a dream. Following a typical nightmare pattern, I was late, desperately trying to reach my destination, a lighthouse. For some urgent reason I couldn't remember, I'd been driving too fast down a coastal road to get there. I'd seen the hitchhiker too late. He was dead. I was convinced they'd put me in jail and I would never see Alice again. Suddenly, his body was gone. My name is Alan Wake. I'm a writer. I came to Bright Falls with my wife, Alice. I told myself I could rest here, sleep here, and forget about my work. I thought we could be happy here.
Alan, please help me.
Alice?
Yes. All right. I hated to leave Barry behind, but there was no way I'd miss my appointment with the kidnapper.
Get after him! Don't let him get away! Move it! Move it! Move it! I'll have your chops if you let him get away!
Move out! Search the area! Keep looking! He can't be far! Stay sharp! Can you see him?
Nightingale. This is Sheriff Breaker. Over.
Nightingale, over.
What on earth is going on? My deputies tell me you fired at Wake and he didn't have a gun. You almost hit a civilian instead. Over.
Sheriff, Wake's running.
If it had just been the sheriff, I'd have taken my chances. She seemed sensible enough. But with this Agent Nightingale in the picture, surrender was not an option.
Move out! Search the area! Stay sharp! Over here! Stop it!
This horror was everywhere I went, circling me. I could feel its presence in my head, like the shadow of a brain tumor, a change in pressure that made my ears pop. The cops didn't stand a chance. They were after a writer, not a monster.
Team 1, come in. Over. Team 1, this is Sheriff Breaker. Report. Over. Team 2, come in. I need a report. Over. Come on, guys. Talk to me. Come in, please. Over.
Sheriff Breaker, this is Agent Nightingale. I've lost contact with most of the men you assigned to me. It's Wake's doing.
Wait, are you seriously telling me that geek writer just took out my deputies? Are you kidding? I mean, have you seen this guy? He wears a tweed jacket. Over.
He's the guy we're chasing. If it's not him, who then? Bigfoot? Over.
I don't know yet, but I'm not in the habit of jumping to conclusions. That tends to come back and bite you in the ass.
Bright Falls, a quaintly idyllic small town that has been called an iconic symbol of all that
Events surrounding her disappearance are chillingly mirrored by the...
Alan Wake? I thought you looked familiar. I'm your biggest fan.
It's the natives, Al. Everybody hates a tourist.
No one made you come here, Barry.
There is a miracle.
I wrote the story.
Dr. Hartman's right. You're crazy.
It's all in your head. You're making this up. Must be tough, knowing that your words will change things.
Who's there? It's coming! Hey!
Oh, God! It's right behind us!
Alan, wake up.
My name is Alan Wake. I'm a writer. I came to the small town of Bright Falls on vacation with my wife Alice. Now she's missing. It's my fault. As insane as it sounds, my latest work, a supernatural thriller, is coming true before my eyes. I'm trying to find the lost pages to make sense of what's happening. A horrifying dark presence has woken up. It's growing stronger. It's coming for me. I need to find Alice.
Alan, wake up. Alan, we're here. This would make a wonderful setting for a book.
We're supposed to be on vacation, Alice.
Alan!
Alice! My wife is missing. They took her. I found many pages. We can't talk here. Come meet me in Underwood.
That's just crazy talk, Al. Al! Al! We should go to the sheriff or call the FBI.
Damn it, Barry, they'll kill her!
Okay then. It's Alice we're talking about, and they want the manuscript? The one you can't even remember writing? The one they think is...
I don't know! Rusty knows something. He wants to talk, so I'm going.
Just be careful with the natives, Al. Everybody hates a tourist. Or it'll be deliverance all over again. Real funny, Al. Real funny. Ha-ha. Thank you. I'll just sit here in the dark till you come back. Or else until I get eaten by a grue.
A page. The air in the visitor center was heavy with an awful smell. Rusty kept coughing blood. My eyes were drawn to the twisted shape of his broken leg. The attack had been vicious. Rusty squeezed the revolver in his trembling hand, his eyes wild. He screamed, "They're here." Then he pulled the trigger.
Mr. Wake? Rusty? Mr. Wake? It didn't get the pages.
Oh, hell.
It will come back to get me. You must... They're here! He's not stopping! Did you see that? In light, you can hurt them. It was in the manuscript. Rusty!
Something had taken Rusty. He had the pages on him. I had no choice but to follow. dark presence all around me. It was taking over everything in its path. Rusty's screams were still ringing in my ears. I was desperate to reach him. Without the manuscript pages he had, I'd never find Alice.
Wake! Wake! Rusty! Wake. The pages. I hit them. The lighthouse. Behind the lifebelt. It knows. It won't let you...
Rusty?
It looks a lot worse than it feels.
As I raced towards the ocean, everything that had happened kept playing in my head. Little by little, without realizing it, I'd come to believe that the story in the manuscript was coming true, that it would lead me to Alice. A drowning man would clutch at a straw. Rusty had known how to pick his spot. Under some other circumstances, it might have even been funny. Now, the lighthouse really was a safe haven in the sea of darkness. Behind me, the night itself came alive as the darkness I'd released came calling. It was a trap.
We're here. Can you believe this place? This would make a wonderful setting for a book.
We're supposed to be on vacation, Alice. I don't know what happened. It was dark. She was screaming. Someone took her.
Alice! And they want the manuscript?
I found many pages.
The story's coming true.
It's all in your head.
I've got to find the manuscript to make sense of what's happening.
You're making this up.
It's my fault.
Please help! Alan!
I'm sorry.
They're here!
I'm Alan Wake, the writer.
My name is Alan Wake. I'm a writer. You'll think I'm crazy, but it's vital that I deliver this warning before it's too late. Time is running out. Previously on Alan Wake. My name is Alan Wake, I'm a writer. This story was meant to be a work of fiction, but everything in it is now horribly true. You'll think I'm crazy, but it's vital that I deliver this warning before it's too late. Time is running out. Working on a story about a writer who, after a tragic loss, goes to live in a secluded cabin. And there he writes a horror story about creatures of darkness disguised as men. When he leaves the cabin, he discovers that the world has turned into the nightmare he's written.
Must be.
Excuse me?
Hey, easy. Knowing that your words will change